Overcoming the fear of failure, path to success. Before starting the video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Once upon a time, in a land where bustling cities met tranquil forest, there lived a wise monk named Daman. Daman was known throughout the land for his deep wisdom and unique approach to solving life's greatest struggles. His humble cottage was nestled on the edge of a dense forest, where he spent his days in peaceful meditation and assisting those who sought his guidance. One fine morning, Daman set out to a nearby village to collect alms. His reputation had spread far and wide, and villagers often shared tales of his insights. As he walked through the marketplace, a young man named Arjun approached him. Arjun was ambitious, but plagued by a deep fear of failure that kept him from pursuing his goals wholeheartedly. "I've heard that you're wise beyond measure," Arjun began hesitantly. "People speak of your ability to solve problems, but I find it hard to believe. I want to ask you something. Why do we fear failure so much? How can I achieve my goals without constantly fearing that I will fail?" Daman, smiling gently, replied, "I can help you, but first, you must accompany me back to my cottage in the forest. There, I will show you the answer to your question." Although skeptical, Arjun's curiosity piqued, and he agreed to follow Daman. The two walked through the serene forest, their journey accompanied by the sounds of rustling leaves and distant birds. As the sun began to set, they arrived at Daman's simple hut, and Arjun was invited to stay for the night. They ate a modest meal in silence, and soon, Daman instructed Arjun to rest, promising that the answer to his question would come in the morning. The next day, after a simple breakfast, Daman said, "Let us go for a walk in the forest." The pair wandered deeper into the woods until they arrived at the mouth of a large, dark cave. "Let me show you something," Daman said, gesturing for Arjun to follow him into the cave. Arjun, still unsure of the monk's intentions, hesitated for a moment but eventually followed. The cave was cold and pitch dark. After a few minutes of walking, Daman silently slipped out, leaving Arjun alone inside. As soon as Arjun realized he had been abandoned, panic set in. The darkness felt oppressive, and his mind raced with fearful thoughts. "Where are you, Daman?" Arjun shouted. "Why have you left me alone in this darkness?" There was no reply. Arjun's heart pounded as the silence grew heavier. Fear gripped him, and he could feel his breaths quicken. In the midst of his panic, he saw a small glimmer of light in the distance, a faint beam coming from a tunnel high above him. His fear momentarily subsided, replaced by the singular thought of escaping the darkness. He had to reach that light. Driven by his desire to escape, Arjun began climbing toward the light. Fueled by adrenaline and determination, he scraped his hands and knees on the rough stone, but he kept going, knowing that he had no other choice. After what seemed like hours, he finally reached the entrance of the tunnel. There, standing just outside, was Daman, calmly extending his hand. Arjun grabbed the monk's hand and was pulled out of the cave. As soon as he emerged into the sunlight, he collapsed, exhausted but relieved. "You left me in there on purpose?" Arjun shouted, his voice filled with frustration. "I was terrified. Do you know what I went through?" Daman smiled and handed Arjun a cup of water. "Tell me, how did you escape the cave?" he asked gently. Arjun gulped down the water, still fuming. "I had no choice. I was scared, and the only thing I could focus on was getting out. That small light was my only hope, so I climbed toward it. And that," Daman said with a knowing smile, "is the answer to your question." Arjun looked confused. "What do you mean?" "Let me explain," Daman began. "You were able to escape that cave for two reasons. First, you had no distractions. There were no voices telling you that you couldn't do it, no one suggesting easier paths, and no one planting seeds of doubt in your mind. Second, your fear of staying trapped in the cave, your hunger, thirst, and isolation motivated you to focus on the light. You didn't allow anything else to cloud your mind." Daman continued, "This is how we must approach our goals in life. Often, we allow the voices of others and the distractions of the world to cloud our minds. People will always try to give you advice, telling you what you can or cannot achieve. They project their own fears and failures onto you. But when you eliminate those distractions, when you stop paying attention to the doubts and focus solely on your goal, you find the strength to succeed." Arjun began to understand. "So, the fear of failure is just another distraction." "Exactly," Daman replied. "Fear only has power over you when you focus on it. In that cave, if there had been light, you might have seen all the obstacles, the steep walls, the insects, the sharp rocks, and you might have been too afraid to act. But in the darkness, you only saw the light. You were so focused on escaping that everything else faded away." The same applies to achieving success. Focus on your goal, not the obstacles. Don't let the fear of failure paralyze you. Arjun was silent for a moment, letting the monk's words sink in. "But what about the length of time it takes?" Arjun asked. Sometimes it feels like success is so far away, and the journey is long and difficult. True, Daman nodded. The path to success is often long, and the mind tends to waver over time. It's easy to lose focus when the goal seems distant. This is why so many people give up. But those who succeed are the ones who keep their eyes on the prize, no matter how long it takes. They push through the dark periods, just like you did in the cave, because they know that every step forward brings them closer to the light. Daman then shared one of Gautama Buddha's teachings with Arjun. When we see problems, it is only because our focus is not on the goal. The moment we focus entirely on the goal, the problems seem to disappear. Arjun nodded. Like when an archer closes one eye and focuses only on the target. Exactly, Daman agreed. If an archer looked at all the distractions around him, the wind, the noise, the movement, he would never hit his target. Success comes to those who maintain that unwavering focus on their goal, despite the difficulties along the way. After a long pause, Arjun said, I see now. I've been letting too many things distract me, what people say, my own doubts, and the fear of failing. But from now on, I'll focus only on my goal. Daman smiled. Good. Remember this lesson. Success isn't achieved by those who never encounter obstacles or doubts. It's achieved by those who push forward despite them, who keep their eyes on the light, no matter how dark the cave may seem. Arjun thanked the wise monk with deep gratitude. The fear that had once plagued him had now been replaced with a newfound resolve. As he made his way back to his village, he carried with him the wisdom that would guide him through life's challenges. He knew that success wasn't about avoiding failure, it was about staying focused, determined, and unwavering in the face of it. Arjun vowed that from that day onward, he would keep his eyes on the light, no matter how dark the path ahead appeared. And when his time for success came, it would be because he had learned the secret of focusing on the goal, and not the fears along the way. If you are enjoying this video, please subscribe to the channel